Sisters, sisters, there were never such devoted sisters. Hi, welcome to Buns on the Run Christmas edition. I'm Kate Pia. I'm here in wonderful Wisconsin, my home state, on location, filming Christmas with my favorite sister, Vivian. Woo-hoo! Don't tell the rest. And we're going to show you some family traditions and some new kinds of cookies and sweets to make for your holiday party to give it a little pizzazz. What are you doing?
I'm helping out.
What are you guys making?
I don't know.
Cookies? Can you sing Jingle Bells?
Fine.
Hey! Today we're going to make a family favorite. Christmas in our household wouldn't be Christmas without two things.
Cooking,
Cinnamon rolls.
molasses cookies.
That's it. So today we're going to make molasses cookies. Not to be confused with gingerbread cookies. They're similar, but they're not the same. Molasses cookies are an American creation. So we've got 1 cup of all vegetable shortening. Don't try to substitute butter. You will not get the right texture. Okay, and to that we're going to add a cup of sugar, and we're going to cream that first.
Back to our baking. Our next ingredient is going to be 2 eggs whole.
And I like to add them one at a time just because they incorporate better. And you can see I'm the short one in the family. I have to tippy-toe to see this. And while we're at that, we can add our vanilla. And I just use the cap.
Ditto.
1 teaspoon. Yeah, 1 teaspoon approximately. So we're going to let that blend for a minute, and then I'm going to scrape down the bowl.
Back to our molasses cookies. One thing we forgot to tell you, have a wet rag with you because the molasses is very sticky.
Yeah.
And then we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. I'm sorry, baking soda. Correct me.
And then we've got our spice mix. Now, Grandma's recipe just had nutmeg and cloves, but we put in cinnamon and ginger. So it's 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, and 1/4 teaspoon each of nutmeg and cloves.
Smells delicious.
Smells like
Christmas. Ditto. Back to molasses cookies. We just wanted to get a shot to you of what our dough would look like before we added the flour. You can see that it is pretty liquidy. There really is no true measurement of how much flour to put in. So Katie and I were having a discussion, anywhere between 4 and 6 cups. I guess we've just done it long enough to know the consistency. But in our bowl we have 6 cups. So we're going to add that in and show you the consistency of what it should look like.
Okay, so we're going to start with just 2 cups of flour at a time. Whoops, I'm messy already. So this is a 1/2 cup. And one of the reasons that there is no exact measurement also on the flour is because a large egg isn't a large egg. Depending on what vendor you're getting them from, they can be much larger, much smaller. So you'll have more liquid in your batter at this stage, and that's why we learn to see how much flour we actually need. Don't ever put all this in at once, or you will be snowed for Christmas. And you don't need to beat it overly much in the beginning. You don't ever want to overbeat your cookie dough because your cookies will no longer be tender. So I'm just at this point, these first couple of cups, putting in enough and then mixing it just till it's mixed in.
We are back. We just realized that we think it's a little soft yet, so we're going to add a little more flour maybe 1/2 to 1 cup more, and then we'll show you the consistency again after that. So now we're back. We're going to take the dough out of the mixer. We have a good consistency here. We're happy with how it turned out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get it all off the beater first of all, which is a little challenge. Anyhow, this is my first YouTube video. I'm feeling like a movie star. We are going to take this off, and then we're going to pour the batter, scoop the batter into this bowl and chill it in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours before we roll it out or form it, whatever we decide we're going to do. My mom, my grandma, they always just make cookies, but we're going to do something just a little bit different. This sounds really strange. My grandma always made cutouts, and she always colored blue frosting with blue sprinkles on it. And to this day, that's the only one I want to eat. I know they all taste the same, but you know how memories go. Okay, take a smell of this. Oh, that's right, you can't, but it really smells good.
So we're going to cover that with plastic, and you can refrigerate it overnight, even a couple of days ahead. You can make this, and then you just want to let it sit out for a bit before you try to roll it, because it will be too stiff. So as we continue in this video, you'll see what we're going to make out of this. Time to roll out our molasses cookies. We're going to put down a little bit of bench flour because the dough is soft, but we don't want to add a lot. So we're actually going to roll this between 2 sheets of parchment paper, and that'll allow us some good even rolling without adding too much flour and making the cookies taste like flour. I'll probably give you one more. Yeah. And we're going to be cutting some pretty small cookies for a decoration / treat. So I guess an edible decoration that we're going to be doing for the party. If you haven't tried these rolling pins, they're wonderful because the sizers on the end will allow you to roll the entire piece of dough the same thickness, and all your cookies will bake evenly. Okay, let's check out, see how our thickness is doing there. Beautiful. See how easy that was? And we didn't add a lot of dough. So now we're going to go ahead. A lot of flour. We're going to go ahead and cut these out.
First you want to dust them briefly on the bottom with flour.
And actually I think we should just do these 2 right now because they're of a similar size. This is much smaller. It would bake too fast. It would probably burn. So we'll just do our stars and our bigger gingerbread men. These are so adorable, these little cutters. And why are we dusting them in flour? So they don't stick.
Oh, Katie, the oven's on.
Oh, I'm gonna go check those cookies. That's our Mexican wedding cakes, or polvorones.
We're back.
We baked all our miniature molasses cookies. We're gonna take the rest of this dough and try something new with it. We're gonna bake it in these little tins. Yes, I know they look like St. Valentine's Day. But Christmas is all about love. We're going to give some love to our guests. So we're going to bake it in these, and that's one of the reasons we didn't want to add too much extra dough when we made this dough. We want it to be soft so it comes out like a cake. So you want to start filling a cup up, and we're only going to fill them about halfway because this does get quite a rise on it. And because we're going to give them to our guests in the tin, we don't actually even need to spray because they're going to be given a little spoon that goes with this to eat along with it, and then we're going to decorate them up when they come out of the oven.
Okay, we have all our molasses cookie dough patted into our heart tins. So now we're going to put them in the oven at 350 degrees for about 12 minutes and watch them closely. They are
has always been what we call the pecan sandies. They're actually polvorones or Mexican wedding cakes, but they're also called Russian tea cakes, snowball cookies. Anyways, we made a batch of these. I'm going to pop them in the oven for 25 minutes at 325 degrees, and then we're going to roll them in some powdered sugar. And while we're doing the rolling, I'll explain to you how they were made. It's a very simple recipe. Our polvorones, or Mexican wedding cakes, are completely baked and cooled. Now we're going to roll them in powdered sugar and we're going to store them. These last a week or two. They stay good for a long time and they're absolutely delicious. So you're just going to roll them in powdered sugar, shake off the excess, and store them. You don't want to roll them while they're warm because the sugar is going to melt and you're going to get a gloppy mess on the outside and they won't look as attractive. So it's very easy. And we got this whole platter to do, and then we're going to move on to something else. When we get done with all these treats and goodies, we're going to have an open house for some family and friends. And the theme of our party is going to be family bakes from around the world. Our heritage is as mixed as you can get. And then all the people who have married into our family from China and from Kenya and from Mexico. So we're going to bring you some of those traditions too. Right now we're going to make some genuine Scottish shortbread.
Okay, we are going to start out with a cup of butter, softened. We'll put that on the mixer to soften it up a little bit.
And
That's good.
when you're making shortbread, this is one time you hear people go, use the good vanilla, use the good butter. If you can get European butter like Kerrygold Irish butter, that's what you want to use for this because it is Scottish butter shortbread.
Okay, from there we are going to add a half a cup of sugar, a half a teaspoon of salt,
And we're going to go ahead and mix that up before we add the flour to make sure the salt is fully incorporated. And because we are using this for a party, we're going to do a little side twist on this. We're going to add a little red food coloring to this batch. So we're actually going to get some red shortbread. Let's give that a mix and see how that turns out. Now you can make the Scottish shortbread with regular sugar, but if you really want it to be smooth and not grainy, you can make your own caster or baker's fine sugar by putting it into your blender, or in this case, our bullet. And just give it a whirl.
Okay, I think I'm going to just wipe down the sides a little bit and put some of the butter off of the spatula here just to make sure the red is all incorporated. We might have to add a little more, we'll see.
Now it's time to add in the flour, 2 cups again, but we're going to add about a cup at a time. We don't want a flour explosion.
We do not. Been there, done that. I always like to lock my mixer too. Sometimes things just go flying all over, especially if it's a hard dough. Well, you just missed the flour explosion that I said not to do. Just a little side note, I am not a baker by trade, but I do like to eat bakery.
And you can see by using gel food coloring, we got a nice red color instead of pink. And it's a pretty stiff dough. And again, we're going to let this chill in the fridge for a bit before we bake it.
Okay, our dough is ready. If you do find that your dough is a little dry, you can add a teaspoon of water to it. So now we're going to take it. Honestly, I just can't remember which way to go. There we go. We're going to take it and we're going to put it on some wax paper. We're going to form it into a disc so it keeps the moisture in while we refrigerate it.
And then later, we're going to cut it and do a little of our own take on traditional Scottish shortbread.
Welcome back. Now we made one more batch of the Scottish shortbread, but we did not put any dye in this one. We are going to be doing a creation, a Christmas creation with the two of them. So you have to stay tuned and see what we have.